Welcome to the stage, Reggie B. Ford.
If you can hear, say persevere. I said, if you can hear, say persevere. Yes, I love it. I just want to first, in spirit of appreciation, Abby, thank you so much for this opportunity. Being here has been an amazing experience. I've been to Coolston, I've been to LaBelle, I've been to Glades Day, and now here with you all, and it has touched my heart. It has impacted me, I think, far greater than it has probably impacted your community. But it so thank you, and thank you, Marion, for bringing us together and allowing this opportunity to come. So y'all give it up for them. Give it up for Abby. Refuse to sink. If you can hear, say persevere. Perseverance is something I talk a lot about. I wrote a lot about it. I wrote the book on it, y'all. And it's something that has helped me get to the point to do all those amazing things that Abby mentioned. But there came a time in my life where I felt like I truly couldn't persevere any longer. You see, I found myself lying in a fetal position on a cold hardwood floor, crying my eyes out as my wife tried to console me. Having had barely any sleep in 30 days, I was physically, mentally, and emotionally exhausted. Thoughts running through my mind were muddled. The words that I spoke were incomprehensible. Right in that moment, I was overwhelmed by grief, anxiety, depression, triggers from my own PTSD. I didn't know where I was. And then I had this lucid moment of looking at myself in that very vulnerable position. And I had this out of body experience where I asked myself, how in the world did you end up here? You did all the things that they told you to do to be successful. You didn't get into trouble. You weren't bad. You got the good grades. You got the good job. Why? Why are you here? Right? That was in 2019, and my journey since that moment has been trying to answer that question. And a lot of that question came down to unaddressed childhood trauma, unaddressed young adulthood trauma, right? The things that plague me mentally, that plague us all mentally, that we bottle up, that we stuff in our bodies, and we just use it as fuel, or it comes and it breaks us down and it hurts us. Right? Those things, I bottle them up for far too long. You see, if I go way back to the beginning, I was born into a lot of trauma. I was born in close proximity to poverty in Nashville, Tennessee. I was born to a 14-year-old mother who experienced her own life of trauma that led to her teen pregnancy. Right? I have this amazing story of when my mom was born. She told me this, like her dad wanted nothing to do with her. And so when my grandmother, who was 15 years old at the time, right? I'm older than my grandmother was when she had me right now, right? I am older than my grandmother was. When my grandmother, 15 years old, goes and walks with my mom to introduce her to her dad, he didn't give them a big hug. He pulled out a big gun and started shooting at them. Right? That's the trauma, the violence that I was born into, that my mom was born into, the cycles over and over repeating themselves. I was born really close to violence and gang activity and drug use. Some of my earliest memories. You see, I see a lot of bottles around here, right? Whether it's to fill up your water or just the ice. I had my earliest memories is to take that bottle and go to the bathroom and pee in it. So somebody in this family, in this household, could use it to pass a drug test, whether to get a job or to trick their probation officer or whatever it may be. My little boy pee was used for those things. That's the drug abuse, the use that was so prevalent in my household, in my community. And my dad was 17 years old when I was born. And instead of being the father that I longed for, he was in the streets. He was in the streets. He did what he knew to get by, to earn a living. I like to say I was born to two entrepreneurs. My mom, she was in the business of making people look pretty as a cosmetologist and barber. And my dad, he was in the business of making people feel pretty as a street pharmaceutical rep. He sold drugs, y'all. That's what I grew up in, right? That's what I grew up to. It was difficult. And then when I think about appreciation, two people in my life that I really feel are the reasons why I am still here, why I am up here today. My dad, while he often wasn't around for me, his parents, they stepped up. They stepped up to the plate better than anybody that I could ever imagine. And they loved me. They loved me unconditionally. Right? And I say unconditional love is what heals us. Unconditional love is what helps us heal from that trauma so that we can persevere. Right? You have unconditional love in you that you can extend to students, that you can extend to each other. Right? This community has been so much love. I've been talking with my best friend right here, Deontay. We've been talking about how much love it's been since we've been here. From landing in West Palm Beach, driving over here, and it's been nothing but love. Shout out to Roland Martins for the amazing accommodations. Again, so much appreciation for everything that this week has been. It's been so fantastic, but unconditional love that my grandparents shared, it helped me, right? Because while there was chaos and all the confusion and going without food and not knowing where I was going to be the next day or being afraid of the people who say they love me. I remember when I was young, I would get a whooping from my mom, right? And while she was whooping me, the thing I would scream out, I miss my mama. I want my mama. I want my mama, right? The person that is there to love me is the one that is beating me, right? And that confuses a young brain, right? We get very disorganized. If you know anything about attachment styles, attachment theory, right? It's a disorganized attachment because I love you. I want you to be here to nurture and comfort me, but you're also the one that is abusing me, right? It makes you so confused. But while that confusion and that chaos was happening in my home, I could go on the weekend and in the summers and on breaks to my grandparents' house where there was none of that, where it was all love all the time. They never laid a hand on me. Right? I can remember the one time my grandfather threatened to spank me and he laughed and gave me some ice cream instead. Right? That was the love that they had for me. That was the love that I've been surrounded by my entire life that has allowed me to be here. Right? I think about education and the appreciation that my mom, who was unable to graduate from high school because she had me at such a young age, and my dad, who didn't graduate from high school because he had me at such a young age, my mom emphasized education. She knew the importance that education would have in my life and how it would help change the course of the things that I had experienced, break the cycles of the things that I had gone through. Y'all, bear with me because these emotions are rising. I'm human, y'all. It's been a long week and it's been amazing. Education has been such a huge part of my life. It's been the key to opening doors for me that I never imagined in my life. Through education, I was able to meet some of the best educators. And I was just thinking on the drive over here, I want to name those educators. And going all the way back to kindergarten. And I ain't wrote this down. These are just the impact that these people had in my life. Kindergarten, Miss Cochran, thank you so much. My very first teacher ever. First grade, Miss Sadler. I have no idea where you are in life, but thank you so much. Second grade, Miss Gibson, thank you. I love that bearded dragon. That was my favorite thing that we ever had, right? Third grade, thank you, Miss Lloyd. Miss Lloyd, oh my God, I would wake up and I would be so excited to go to school because Miss Lloyd was young. She went to Ole Miss. She was pretty. And I was like, I'm going to go give Miss Lloyd a hug every single day. And I did every single day. Third grade, we get to the end of third grade. And I remember sitting there just crying. I had this pencil box and it had my name on it. But my tears, it would drop and hit the pencil box. And it would start to melt away, all my name and everything at the end of the third grade because I didn't want to be away from Miss Lloyd. Miss Lloyd gave me her mailing address so that I could write letters to her. So we corresponded throughout the summer. As a third grader, that's what she did. She stepped up. She was the one. She was so passionate for me. Fourth grade, guess what? Miss Lloyd. Miss Lloyd moved up a grade because I think she shared the same amount of love for me as I did for her. Right? It was amazing. It was amazing. Fifth grade, Mr. Hill, Shannon Hill, the first black male teacher that I ever had. And he instilled in me so much confidence in being who I am, right? He loved me. He showed me that it was okay to be a vulnerable man and also be a masculine man, right? Those two things don't have to exist in two separate chambers. They can coexist, right? I remember everybody remembers where they were when 9/11 happened, right? I was in Mr. Hill's class and I remember them rolling in TV and Mr. Hill coming in. It's the first time I've ever seen him crying. Right? He's pacing back and forth, and he's so upset and so concerned. And I'm seeing all the adults around. They're very upset, and I don't really truly understand what's going on. Right? I don't understand that this plane just hit this building, that it's such a massive thing, and it's going to change the course of our lives. I didn't understand that, but I saw the pain on his face. Right? Just like he saw the pain on my face one day. I was sitting in class, and out of nowhere, unbeknownst to me even, I just started crying. I started crying, tears pouring down my face. Why am I crying? I can't explain it. Mr. Hill looks at me, he says, Reggie, what's wrong? And I start crying even more. He asks me if I want to go out into the hall. So I go out. He's like, what's going on, son? I'm like, I don't really know, but I think it's because I miss my dad. I miss my dad because he's in prison. I'm in fifth grade now, but my dad got arrested when I was in third grade giving those hugs to Miss Lloyd. My dad got arrested. And he's been in prison for the last 2 years, and I don't know what it is about right now, but I'm just upset. I'm crying. I don't want to be here, and I don't like any of y'all. I don't want to be around anybody right now. Y'all don't understand me, right? Despite the fact that so many other people in my class had similar situations. So many people didn't have their fathers in their lives, lost their fathers or their mothers to the prison system, right? It hurt. It hurt. But Mr. Hill, he came up to me and he put his arm around me. He didn't necessarily know what to say. He didn't have to know what to say. But his sheer presence alone, that meant the world to me. So much that I'm still recounting that story to this day. Right? Sixth grade, let's pick it back up. Miss Lewis. Miss Lewis was my least favorite teacher. I'm going to be real with y'all. We have those, right? Miss Lewis was a sweet lady, but Miss Lewis never graded any homework, and I was a perfectionist, and I need you to grade my homework. Right? Miss Lewis was a dear, dear, dear woman. And she talked a lot about tennis, knew nothing about tennis, but I did my homework, so you should take it up. Seventh grade. Seventh grade, I had a couple of teachers. I moved across town, so I had Mr. Harbison, who instead of calling me Reggie, he called me Ridgie because he had a friend named Ridgie. That's not my name. Right? Eighth grade. Eighth grade, things change. Things change. See, what I didn't mention in fifth grade, I was involved in this organization called Backfield in Motion. Backfield in Motion was a nonprofit that was started by this wealthy individual who came from this private school in this wealthy community on the other side of town. Backfield in Motion, his name was Joe Davis, another man who I appreciate, and rest in peace. Joe, coaching a team in the projects, recognized that his players barely made it to the practices and definitely didn't make it to all the games, especially when there was travel involved. They couldn't afford cleats. They couldn't afford shoulder pads. They couldn't afford the things that they needed to do to be successful in this world. And in that world, it was football for that moment. But in this world, right, we lack resources to be the best versions of ourselves. And so what did he do? He provided those opportunities through this organization called Backfield in Motion. And Backfield in Motion eliminated all those barriers. Similar to what Heather was talking about, those wraparound services, are so important because mental health, it doesn't exist in a silo, right? You think about it. When you are stressed about something, you are stressed about it, right? Money and mental health, relationships and mental health, physical health and mental health, nutrition and mental health. It all plays a role, right? He provided all of those wraparound services when it came to the game of football, but he also provided educational opportunities and tutoring services for all these young people who didn't necessarily have that opportunity. And through that program, I was not acknowledged as one of the bright students who could do all the hard work, who had a strong work ethic, who had the commitment. And that was an introduction to me to a private school on the other side of town that I never in a million years could have seen myself at. Fast forward, right? We're back in 8th grade. I'm enrolling at that private school. And that was the greatest culture shock that I've ever experienced in my entire life. Right? Coming from a school where I was a part of the majority of the students, they had stories similar to mine. They looked similar to me. Right? We could understand each other. To going to a school where I've never seen anybody pull up in a BMW. I've never seen these Mercedes and G-Wagons, and I haven't seen all this. I don't know what Wallabies are. I'm trying to wear Timberlands every day. Right? It was a totally different ball game for me, but there I was. Right? And unlike a lot of my students or a lot of my classmates who grew up and lived in one of the fanciest parts of town, the fanciest part of town, called Belle Meade, million dollar houses, big old houses. I came from that day, my first day of school, I woke up on the couch in Edge Hill Projects. Because me and my mom, we were in between housing and we were trying to figure it out. And I drove to school. My mom drove me to school in a car, 1988 Buick, that I helped purchase through working that summer. Because we hadn't had a car before that. We didn't have reliable transportation. And because I was going to a private school now, we had to have that so that I can get to and from school. Right? It was a totally different world for me. And so that 8th grade year was tough. Going back to appreciation, Miss Pettis. Miss Pettis, I thank you so much. I thank you for all you did. Right? And even though sometimes we didn't see eye to eye on what was normal, we didn't always see that. I told a story on a creative writing essay about my friends from back in the day and how they played in this AAU basketball game. Right? And they went down to Orlando, Florida. I gave a shout out to Florida. I love Florida. I gave a shout out. Came down to Orlando, Florida, played in the AAU basketball game. And my friend D'Angelo hit the game-winning shot in the national championship and was carried off the court on everybody's shoulders. He was the hero. Right? But when he went home, and this is all made up, y'all. We sucked. We were terrible. When he came home, he told his mom, he's like, Mom, I made the game-winning shot. I was the hero of the game. She looks at him. She's like, D'Angelo, I'm so proud of you. Right? I turned that paper in, and I got a good grade on it. But Miss Pettis, she wrote a comment on that paper that said, great story. But I don't find it quite realistic that D'Angelo's mom wouldn't be there if it had been the national championship game. Realistic. Right? Our realities were totally different because I had grown so used to not having somebody up in those stands, somebody in those bleachers cheering me on. Right? Miss Pettis opened my eyes that there can be two different normals. There can be two different realities. I think that's one of the greatest lessons we can learn in life is that my reality and your reality, while they are both valid, they can both be different. They can both be true to us. But while we see our reality, can we have empathy and compassion for other people's reality? Right? We may not ever walk a day in their shoes, but can I put myself in their position to see what it's like, to see the heartache that they go through, the struggles that they may face. Right? Miss Pettis put that on there, and it changed my perception of normal, of reality. Not to say that my normal was bad or good, not to say that hers was bad or good. They were just different. Right? Ninth grade, Mr. Sawyer. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Robert Sawyer. Mr. Sawyer picked me up every day for school my 9th grade year. Right? That car, that 1988 Buick that we bought, somebody broke into it, stole the radio. Later on, it started puttering up and down. It ended up burning up on the interstate. Like it was a challenge, right? So it was hard for me to get to and from school. Mr. Sawyer stepped up. He stepped up and picked me up, came to my apartment every morning. And I remember one morning when I was always late, y'all. He's coming at 8:30, I'm waking up at 8:32. Like I was always late. But there was one morning where he let me know how inconvenient that was for him. And I respect him for it. I respect it because it was a day where he's vowing for promotions and he's trying to grow in his career and he needs to be at meetings at a certain time. And here I am struggling to get out of bed, still wiping sleep out of my eyes. And he's like, Reggie, you got to show up. You got to show up. When we set a time, I need you to be there. Right? I appreciate that. I appreciate that lesson that he gave me, man. Be a man of my word. Stick to my commitments. Right? I thank you, Mr. Sawyer. Thank you so much. 10th grade. 10th grade, I met the absolute best teacher that I've ever been taught by, Madame O'Connell. Madame O'Connell was my French teacher. And she was, oh man, let's back up because I met her in 8th grade, but she wasn't my teacher then. 8th grade, I was in an honor council event where there was a misunderstanding around some of the stuff that was happening on campus, and I had to testify in front of a group of my peers. It was terrifying. Madame O'Connell was the teacher representative of the honor council. And while I'm sitting here at the table looking out into a room full of peers, Madame O'Connell's behind me staring a beam through my head. I could feel it. I can still feel it to this day. And I thought she was the meanest person ever. But in 10th grade, I get into her class, and it is absolutely beautiful. It is love. It is true love. Right? She had us do an assignment that I felt was so great in helping her understand who we were. She had us in French tell our stories. Right? Stories are so powerful. Stories help us connect. Right? I know a lot of y'all may have some stories that are similar to mine, but they're not the same. And then some of you may not. But as we tell those stories, we get to connect on a human level. We get to understand again and put ourselves in other people's shoes. She had us tell our stories so that she could get to know us. Part of my story was Alex Haley, who the author of Roots, was my cousin. Right? I'm saying this in French, and I will not put y'all through that right now because it'll sound real bad. But I tell her in French that Alex Haley's my cousin, right? Author of this amazing book that was turned into movies and everything else. And don't you know, she took that assignment and she gave a gift to every single student based off of what they shared. It was one of the most thoughtful things that I've ever experienced. And she gave me the book Roots, right? And that book is, my hands aren't big enough. It's huge. It is huge. I got that book in 10th grade, and I probably didn't read it until like 10 weeks ago. Right? But that was showing how thoughtful she was in getting to understand and know her students. And come to find out, 2 years ago, I found out that Alex Haley ain't even my cousin, y'all. It was some mix up with this dude named Chicken George, and yeah, something like that. Right? 11th grade. 11th grade. Who am I gonna give that to? I haven't written any of this down, y'all. I'm just like thinking through these people that have made such a significant impact in my life. I'm in 11th grade, Miss Serrano. Miss Serrano was an English teacher, but during 11th grade, she was much more of a counselor, a college counselor for me. Right, 11th grade was when the interest from colleges started to pour in. And I had no idea what to do for applications. I didn't know how to do the Common App. I didn't know because after 9th grade, I was pretty much blazing a path for myself. My mom, my dad, they didn't graduate. Nobody in my family knows how to do this stuff. Right, but Miss Serrano, she stepped up. She stepped up, and in every break period that I had, I was sitting next to her, writing my essays and critiquing my essays and figuring out why in the hell do I want to go to Harvard? Why do I want to go to Yale? I don't know. It's cool. It has a big, cool H logo. I don't know. This is literally what I wrote for my essay for Yale before it was edited. I would like to go to Yale because Pierre Capretz, who's a French teacher, is the book that we read from today in French class. Period. That's it. I didn't want to go there. I didn't want to go there, but when all that interest from those Ivy Leagues started to pour in, and all the accolades that and the achievements that I had started to be reflected in the college support, in the college, in the next step in my educational career, she was there with me every step of the way, holding my hand, making phone calls for me, making sure I showed up to interviews on time. And I thank her. Thank you, Miss Serrano, so much. 12th grade. 12th grade has to go to Annie B. Williams, Miss Williams. Miss Williams was my government and econ teacher. And the thing about Miss Williams was, and she didn't know this at the time, but the year before, she would always walk up the hallway to her classroom, and during my break period, I would be doing my homework in the hallway, and I would be sitting there by myself most of the time, because what she didn't know was, in that environment, being the different person, being the other, I didn't truly want to be there. I didn't want to be surrounded by all the other classmates who had lives that were totally different from mine. And so in my breaks, I would sit in the hallway and just do my homework. And she loved that. She loved that I was so diligent with my studies. And so when I got in her class, similar to that love that I had with Miss Lloyd, every day seemed like she would say, I just love Reggie. In front of the entire class, I just love Reggie. Right? And I'm at an all-boys school, and when a teacher says that, these guys are laughing, they're snickering, they're like, they think something's going up. No, she just loved Reggie. And there's a quote that says, a student who is loved at home comes to school to learn, and a student who isn't comes to school to be loved. She just loved Reggie. She expressed it. She expressed it daily. And she didn't know the power of those words, especially on a public setting around people who I did not feel better than, who I felt this inferiority complex around, right? I felt so low being the poor kid from the hood around all of this privilege and all of this wealth. But she showed me just how valuable I was every single day. In 12th grade, Miss Williams. Let me tell y'all about Miss Williams. We still have a relationship to this day. I graduated in 2009 from high school, so we still have a relationship to this day, 15 years later. So do I have with a lot of those teachers that I just named. Mr. Hill has come to speaking engagements of mine. Miss O'Connell, Madame O'Connell has been at speaking engagements, and we go to dinner and we get coffee all the time, right? I still have a huge, huge relationship with these people. I'm so thankful for you all. Like the work that you do is not even appreciated enough, right? Y'all know this. Like your title, educator, teacher. But it's so much more than that. It's so much more than that. Sometimes you have to show up as that therapist who's not really trained to talk to this young person who's going through the dilemmas that they're going through in life. Sometimes you're the social worker who's trying to help get a bed for a student, get some food for a student, right? You may have to take them home even though that's going to break the rules, but you do it anyway because you care, right? You do so much more. And I appreciate you more than anything because of people like you, because of all those people that I named, I am up here today. Those people saved my life. Those people saved my life. You save people's lives. You're lifesavers. Right? That's a huge, huge role to play in a person's life. Right? They say the one thing that allows a young person to build resilience in the face of adversity is just at least one loving, caring, supportive adult. That consistency, showing up, being that loving, caring, supportive adult for a young person helps them build the resilience to be able to do things like this, to stand up on stages, to be awarded all the amazing things that I've been awarded with. I realize not everybody has that love and that support in their lives, and that's why I'm so emotional up here right now, y'all, because I'm so grateful for these opportunities to be the person that I am. But I'm not the person that I am without people like y'all. I'm not the man that I am without people like Dr. Erickson, who drove up here today. Right? She saw me speak at a conference several months back, and we've been in contact ever since. Right? Because we work together, and she's taken my book, and she holds the record for the number of times of reading PTSD, Perseverance Through Severe Dysfunction. Right? I will challenge anybody in this world who can read faster or more than she does right there. And she has helped me, right? Without me asking with anything. She reached out, sent me a lesson plan from a passage in my book and was like, I would love to help you create curriculum around this book, right? This is something that I've had on my to-do list for months and years even. And here it is. This angel shows up and says she's going to help me, right? She didn't have to do that. I just met her, right? But she's been showing me so much love and support. Y'all might have saw earlier. She hand knitted me a scarf, right? And brought that as a gift. I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but I just got to thank you. Thank you so much. Y'all give it up for Dr. Erickson, y'all. Thank you. So much love. I'm not who I am without people like you. Right? We talked about high school. Like high school, I did really well, right? I get to a point where I'm like, I could go to Ivy League, but that's not really what I want. I don't really want that because, you see, I got these little ones at home. Not kids, but siblings. These siblings of mine, they don't have a male role model in their life to look up to. I want to be that. I am that. I've been that my entire life. And if I go to Cambridge, if I go to Stanford, if I do that, then they see this figment of a person. They only correspond with me over the phone, kind of like how I did with my dad for so many years while he was in prison. I didn't want to be separated from them. I know the power of presence. I want to be in their lives. So I decided I was going to stay in Nashville, Tennessee, and go to Vanderbilt University. Vanderbilt was an amazing opportunity for me. It was great. It was great, but I almost didn't get that opportunity because with all the stress and all the things that was happening in my life, during my junior and senior year, started to self-sabotage left and right. And it came time to take SATs, ACTs. I didn't want to go to Harvard because that's what everybody was pushing. Let's go from hood to Harvard. This is going to be amazing. No, it's not the story I wanted to tell. That's not the story I wanted to live. Right? And so what did I do? I'm CB, sleep. I don't want to do this. As bright as I was, right? Some of your best students, they're going to have those hardships. Some of your finest students, right? What I did, right? I took all of the pain and I put it into work because when I was working, I could forget about all the other pains. I could forget about that. I can lose myself in an Excel spreadsheet. I can lose myself in word problems and math and French. And I can lose myself in the history of the United States, the history of the world. I can lose myself in AP English. I can lose myself in that so I don't have to feel the pain that I'm feeling on a daily basis. I didn't turn to drugs. I didn't turn to alcohol. I turned to work. But what happens when you do that in a society like we have? It gets applauded. It gets rewarded. And so what do? I keep doing it. I keep feeding that. It's a cycle, right? Trauma response after trauma response keeps leading to what? External validation because I'm seeking this love. Like those students who aren't loved at home, they come to school to be loved. They seek reward to be loved. They do amazing things, and some of them, we've seen them on TV, right? We see them featured in all of these magazines. They are the high achievers in the world, right? It said that 75% of high achievers, however you want to define that, have had traumatic experiences in their past. 75% of the people that we watch on TV, the people that we idolize, they have trauma in their past. What pushes them, what drives them, a lot of times is that trauma. And a lot of times their trauma responses are rewarded and they keep doing it. They keep on going because ultimately what they're trying to find, they'll never get. You can't find that with an award. I can never be in love with another trophy. I can never be loved more because I was featured in another magazine. No, I had to go and heal those wounds. I had to get that love. And the biggest person that had to give me that love, you know who it was? Me. Through all my conditioning, through what I had learned, and what I internalized as a young person, was that I wasn't lovable. I have to achieve in order to be loved. That's what I was taught. Or when I came home and just came home, it wasn't, hey, I love you, give me a hug. But when I came home with A's on my report card, I got a smile. Okay, I want another smile. Let me go get more A's. Right? And so I started to achieve. I was addicted to work and achievement. He may say I'm still addicted to those things, right? It's just I gotta do it because that's how I'm gonna find it. It wasn't until getting into therapy that I understand it, that I had to heal those wounds and start loving myself. But some of those things that I achieved, like graduating from Vanderbilt University, while I was there, I played football. I walked on and played football for some of the greatest coaches in the world. One being James Franklin, who's now at Penn State, and it was the best experience in football that I've ever had. It was super fun, and I'm playing, and I'm doing really well, and I'm getting playing time. But one of the students this week asked what position I played. And I told them in college, right? I played all positions when I was growing up, and I was a really great athlete. But in college, just a whole nother ball game, especially D1, SEC. Like these guys, like I'm a small guy for a football player, right? Y'all see that? I haven't changed much, and there were 6'4" receivers that can jump just as high as I can run faster than I can, all of that, right? And so it was hard. But I played a lot of special teams. But when he asked me what position I played, I told him butt back. Y'all know what butt back is, right? Yeah. Yeah. No? You don't know what butt back is? It's that position where when you run on the field, coach is like, get your butt back over here. Right? It was fun. It was so much fun. But I got to a point where I recognized that I was giving too much of my time to football and not emphasizing my academics like why I came to school. And so my senior year, made the decision to quit the football team. One of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make. If you have young people who are in love with sport, in love with an instrument, in love with something that you know nothing about, right? They love it for a reason because it's fulfilling a part of them that they need to be filled. And when that ends, let's say the kid has an injury. Let's say the person can no longer play the game that they always wanted to play. That is kin to losing a loved one. There's deep grief in that. There's deep, deep grief in that. And I experienced that grief in my college years, and it overwhelmed me in a way that I never thought. And it started to bring up so much for me because I had never grieved the losses of so many close loved ones who had passed away, who had gone, different routes in their lives and are no longer here. My grief was so high at that time. And during that time in college, I also met a girl. She's pretty. She's real pretty. Her name was Katie. And Katie, she introduced me to something called adverse childhood experiences. She was studying to be a pediatrician, and we get to talking about our childhoods and about our stories and about our lives. And she looks at me and she's like, have you ever taken this questionnaire? And I'm like, I've never seen it. I'd love for you to sit down and take it. 10 questions, right? Related to adverse childhood experiences, trauma that you experience in the early parts of your life before your 18th birthday. They look at things like physical abuse, emotional abuse, neglect, sexual traumas, household dysfunction, having a parent addicted to a substance, having a parent that is away at prison, right? A lot of different things. These 10 questions. And I get to answering those questions, and when I get to the bottom, just like everything else, I'm a perfectionist, right? Got a perfect score, 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. And let me tell the story how it actually happened in that time, because at the time I wasn't as vulnerable as this. And I said I had 9 out of 10. And the one that I didn't say that I had was the sexual abuse. Right? Because as a little boy, being touched and being told where to put your fingers and things with a girl was applauded, right? My trauma was applauded. I was 4. Right? I didn't consider that trauma at the time because of our society. But reflecting back, what did that do to my developing brain? How did that affect me? I get there and I see that I have a 10 out of 10, and I see what this adverse childhood experiences look like later on in life, because there's correlations through studies by the CDC and Kaiser Permanente that have been replicated all over the world that show that adverse childhood experiences lead to poor health all over the board when you're an adult, lead to chronic diseases like diabetes, right? Like hypertension, which I deal with currently. I was just telling him on the way over here, when my blood pressure is really high, my breath starts to shorten. I can't breathe out all the way. I take pills. I'm in my 30s for hypertension. I'm a healthy guy. because of that trauma that I faced, right? Which, what does that lead to? Heart disease, number one greatest killer in our country, right? Because of the trauma that we face as young people, right? Higher rates of suicidality, 12 times more likely to die by suicide if you have an ACE score of 4 or more compared to those who have an ACE score of 0, right? I would encourage all of you to take the Adverse Childhood Experience study, not to scare you, but to give you awareness around where you land, right? And see that if you have an ACE score of 6 or more, that your life expectancy is decreased by 20 years or more. Or my grandfather, he died at 44 years old. My other grandfather died at 50, right? Where does that leave me? I gotta do something about these adverse childhood experiences. I can't really change the past, the things that happened to me that I had no control over. But what can I do? I can start to address those today. And I didn't do it immediately, right? When I found that information, I was just this little nugget in the back of my head saying, "Wow, this has really impacted me." I go on, graduate from college, and I don't know what I'm gonna do with life. So I go back to school, get a master's degree from the business school. And that was a fantastic 1-year program, and I'm out, get certified as a public accountant, CPA. Started working for one of the largest companies in the world, Deloitte & Touche. Great company. Gave me great experience in the business world, auditing, going into companies with billions and billions of dollars of revenue and auditing that, making sure that those numbers are reflected accurately for the investors, for the general population, so that we can believe the companies and the governments and the things that show numbers to us. Great job. Tremendous impact, but for me, it didn't feel like the impact that I wanted to have in this world. And I'll tell the story this week about the quote that I read right before I submitted my resignation letter. The quote was from Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs said, "Work is going to fill a large part of your life. And the only way to truly be satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. You got to love what you do." And as with all matters of the heart, if you haven't found it, don't settle. Please don't settle. Because with all matters of the heart, you'll know when you found it. Right? You guys are lifesavers. Right? You guys are lifesavers. I saw that quote and I was like, yeah, I got to go. I'm done with this. I was done. And so the next day I get on my computer and I type, because I was real vain. I was so full of myself. "To all my fans, comma." And I sent that to everybody in the company that I had met to that point. And I'm going to national trainings. I'm traveling all over the world. I'd have met partners. I'd have met first-year associates. They were all my fans. I was full of myself. And I left. I left because while it is valuable work, it wasn't the work that I wanted to be doing. And so I left there and I was searching, trying to understand what I wanted to do. How could I add value into this world? What kind of impact would it be? I landed in wealth management. Wealth management, didn't know what those words meant. But I'm learning and I'm soaking it up. Helping wealthy people get wealthier. Helping affluent people who make high earnings get wealthy so that they can pass down generational wealth. Helping people who have never ever had wealth at all understand financial literacy so that they can start to build a financial freedom for themselves, and then get to that point where they're passing down generational wealth. Because what did we say earlier? Mental health doesn't exist in a silo, right? If you don't have money to pay for your rent, you're going to be stressed. You may be depressed. That anxiety is high, right? If we can eliminate that barrier, the financial barrier, then just one less thing, in the words of my guy, Forrest Gump. And so that's what I did. And I learned from the company that I was working for until I got to a place where I was done working for somebody else, because I had ambition to be this entrepreneur. I didn't know what that word meant when I was younger, but I always saw myself as an entrepreneur, as a businessman. So I left that company and I started Rose Creek Wealth Management. The name derives itself from the rose that grew from a crack in the concrete. Through all the perceived impossibilities, with poor soil, little light, no water, that rose, it grows, right? And when we see that rose leaning to the side with its damaged petals, we don't say, "Oh, look at that poor little rose." No, we marvel at its tenacity to reach the sun. And I saw that as an epitome of my life. I wanted to celebrate that, not just in my life, but in the lives of so many other roses out there. Everybody say, I am the rose. You are the roses. No, I'm saying that to you. You all. Yeah. I appreciate that, yeah. But you all are the roses, right? And maybe some of the trauma that you've experienced has been at this level compared to other. I don't like comparisons, but right, we have trauma in all of this, and we have adversity up and down, all of that. But right, we all experience adversity as a part of the human experience. And because you are here today, because you have shown up for your kids, for yourself, for your families, right? You are the roses as well. And we celebrate that. We celebrate that in your lives. I started that company and it started to lead to so many great things. Being featured in Top 100 in finance. Now Forbes is knocking. They want to interview me. Now I'm nominated for Forbes 30 under 30. I'm just a kid from the hood. Where is all this coming from? Right? Nashville Business Journal is calling me. They want to interview me as well. Now I'm featured in the top business in Nashville Business Journal 40 under 40 with some of my mentors. It's crazy. I shouldn't be at this table. What is going on? Now, before I was 40, I was 30, right? And before 30, I was getting in top 30 under 30. And it's amazing. All these accomplishments that I'm having, it was beautiful, right? But I found myself laying on a cold hardwood floor crying my eyes out. How in the world when you did it all right? How in the world when you succeeded? Right, since that moment, started to address that childhood trauma. I do more inner child work than I ever thought I would, right? And what is inner child work? It's me being the adult that I always needed for myself, telling myself the things that I needed to hear so that I can reprogram that wiring in my brain to get to a healthier place. So that I can take those traumatic experiences and come to a conclusion that is so different from what the reality was, so that I can start to make different associations with the world. So I can trust other people to be there, to hold their word, to love me, to trust me. Right? So I can build those interpersonal relationships that are so important and vital to our own mental health. I had to address those things. I had to heal from those things. I'm still doing it. The healing process is one of those, it's a journey. Right? You never end at a destination of healed, but you continue to heal throughout your lives. That led me to writing a book, because for so long, all of that had been bottled up inside of me. That was a part of why I was down there. I never shared it with anybody. I felt too ashamed to share it, because whose 14-year-old mother doesn't love them, right? Whose 15-year-old grandmother is abusive, right? You say that and it's like, well, actually, it's more common than you think. But I didn't believe that because I had never shared my story. And that's why I believe in the power of vulnerability now, because vulnerability is the sharing of those stories that helps breaks down that shame for ourselves and shame for others. Because I've had so many people come up to me and say, because you shared what you shared, I want to share something with you, right? Just yesterday, sweet little girl comes up to me and she's crying. She's crying. She lays her head in my chest. She lays her head in my chest and she starts to reveal some of the most horrid things to me about what she's experiencing. She doesn't know me. I've spoken to this school for 45 minutes and here she is because I shared my vulnerability with her, because she felt safe with me, because I wasn't pretending. I wasn't hiding behind this air of perfection, that air of perfection that I had hid behind for so long in my life, right? The resume, the social media, all of that was fake. I'm a whole human. I'm complex. I have good and I have bad. I have so many parts of me that need to be celebrated, that need to be tended to. And so do you. Right? You all have those parts and they are all beautiful. One of my favorite quotes is that in order to love the person that I am, I can't hate the things that made me who I am. Right? If you think about it, if you break it down, if I hate my hand and my arm and my chest and my legs and like if I start hating all these individual parts, I hate me. I can't say I love me and then say I hate individual parts. Same with my story. I can't say that I hate my parents. I can't say that I hate my past, my trauma. I can't. I love and I appreciate all those things because I love me. If I want to love me, I have to love each and every one of those parts, because without them, I'm not who I am today. I'm not who I am today. That book became a bestseller. It led to so many different things, like being up here, being able to talk to you all, right? And there's so many people in my life that have played a huge role. I encourage you, like, not many people do this, but when you get to the back of that book, you read the acknowledgments, because those people shaped my life. Those people helped me be where I am today. One of those people's here today. I gotta bring you up, brother. Come on. Y'all give it up for Deontay Hughes, y'all. I'm gonna tell y'all about this man. Stay up here. This man right here is my brother. We've been through it. Like, we met when 13, 14 years old, and he look a lot older than me, y'all, don't he? It's my little brother, though, man. Like, we met at a basketball court, right? We playing basketball, and it's getting scrappy. It's hot. It's in the summertime, and, man, we getting at it. And his cousin's talking all this trash, and I'm ready to beat him. Fast forward, I'm enrolling at that school, right? I look up. I know that little kid right there. This dude from the hood, right? He showed up, and, man, we've been thick as thieves ever since. This is my brother. Blood couldn't make us closer. And I want, like, you. I probably haven't told you this, bro. But the time that I really knew that we were brothers, man, this was hard, y'all. I was 15 years old, and he gives me a call, and I'm hanging out. We lived right down the street from each other, and he's crying. I don't even know what's going on, but I'm like, I'm coming, bro. And I shoot down the street, and he comes up to me, and he lays his head in my chest. He lays his head in my chest because he just witnessed one of his friends get shot, right? And the person who shot him, they're running around the streets. They're all over the place, and nobody feels safe right now, right? He comes and he calls on big bro. Love you, bro. Love you too. Right? This is my brother. I appreciate you, man. Yes. I appreciate you to death, bro. You want to share some words with the people? Share some words, because he got it. Like, he has a hell of a story too. I'll give it up, man.
Put me on the spot. Well, first I want to thank you. You know, you could have called anybody to come down here with me. I know we're brothers, but for you to allow me to come down here with you and share the moments, like the impact you had on the community, the kids, this has been one of the special moments of my life. You'll always remember this. Thank you so much. Abby. Abby, thank you. You've shown us such great hospitality since we've been here, as far as what we with our heads, the day-to-day operation, what's going to take place in the events. Thank you so much for allowing me to share this with you, and seeing the love and care that you have, and meeting your mom yesterday. I can see where you did it. So thank you so much. Reggie was right. You guys have been so great, so nice. We've been shocked. Like, we're just not used to singing that in Nashville right now. Like, you guys are awesome. We love being here, and hopefully we'll come back again. But thank you, seriously. Like Reggie said, we met in middle school. That's some of the same backgrounds. My mom had me at 15. You know, she was incarcerated a lot. During those years, she sold drugs, prostitution a little bit. My dad, who I thought was my dad, was locked up. I barely saw him growing up. Again, they met in high school. They had me in high school. They, just in the streets a lot. So my grandmother had custody, and her having an 8th grade, education, us growing up on welfare and food stamps. You can only imagine the hardships that we had. I'm the oldest of 5. There was a lot of tough nights. We never really went hungry. She made sure we had something to eat. But as far as the lights being out for a few days during the winter, selling food stamps to keep the lights on. She just tried to do the best she could, and I love her for it. She's still here with us today, but she was here, I would definitely give her a hug, because without her, where I would be, probably the state, so I definitely love her for that. Today, I couldn't leave without just telling my testimony and how much I appreciate the teachers. A lot of those years growing up, there was so much hatred in my house, mainly because we were just so poor, and my grandmother just had so much resentment towards my mom, and it kind of affected me and my sister, who was 2 years younger than me. And it was just a lot of cussing on her, a lot of verbal abuse, physical sometimes, but I know deep down she loved us. She just didn't know how to show it. And me going to school was like my scapegoat, like ever since kindergarten, first grade, I always had this level of innocence. Like even as a kid, I knew this was not gonna define me. Like whether it was just me, as simple as me just watching Disney Channel or something, seeing something pop, like it always just stuck with me. But even those, even me having that, there's a couple of challenges along the way, just so many different bad influences that affected our neighborhoods. Kid my age who would stay up late at night, doing whatever in the streets. My grandmother, thank God, she always kept me and my sister at close links. We were never followers, so that kind of helped us a lot. But just seeing those negative influences, it can really consume a kid. I don't care what your mindset is at that age. So me coming to school meant everything to me. I mean, it's kind of weird. I always think about it. Some of the rigorous classes we had. I've always liked math, science and stuff like that. But for me, it was the challenge the teachers kind of put on me as far as seeing the potential in me. I thought it was a different type of love because they showed that that teacher was committed to me, which is something I didn't really have going home. At home, I always kind of just put myself in a shell. Like I didn't want to talk to anybody. I had to hide myself in the room. But there at school, I was more open. I could share my ideas, share my thoughts. Around a lot of positive people, a lot of positive kids that I'm in school with, so I'm very thankful for that. But really, it was the love and care from my teachers and coaches. Like I said, my dad was never in my life, so football coaches, the male teachers were definitely father figures in my life. And I think that level of accountability that was put on me, along with me being committed to my schoolwork, thankfully it led me to go to Montgomeryville Academy where I met Reggie Ford, and really seeing him there and knowing his story that he told you guys, you can only imagine meeting somebody with that same type of background in that environment. At that point, we was forever linked, and we were forever going to be linked forever. And I love him so much because he's just a year older. I'm 32. Despite that,
Don't be telling them my age.
I'm 32, but he's my role model. I love him dearly. We always tell each other that, but sometimes I feel like we don't tell each other enough. I love him.
I love you too.
But if you was the same CPE, Reggie, me being so lucky to be around it, I can't acknowledge the fact that how I got there, how I got to meet somebody like Reggie, was the love and the care from the teachers I had growing up. Like he said, without you guys, I would not be here today. Like y'all did so much for me, like more than I can ever imagine. And the older I get, the more I just realize that, like, I shed tears sometimes at night just thinking, just reflecting, like how lucky Reggie and I were because where we come from, like we could have went totally left. We could have been, in the system, like who knows where our lives would have been. Instead, we're both right here today. sharing our stories and spreading the love and positivity that we were grateful to receive from our teachers. Like people who they didn't have to be there for us, but they did. Like you just never know what type of impact you're gonna have on just one student. In this case, two students.
Mm.
Like you guys are everything to us. I just want to just thank y'all.
Yeah. Y'all give it up for him. Y'all give it up for him. That was good, bro. Love you too. Yeah, you too. Y'all see, that's my best friend, man. He's an amazing dude. He did that impromptu. I didn't tell him that was gonna happen, and he just takes it, man. I want to hear some questions. I want to get to know y'all a little bit. But I like to close out with this, something that I wrote that kind of encapsulates, some philosophies that I've gained over time and thoughts that I have about life, and it rhymes a little bit, so people think it's cool sometimes. So, right now is all we have, because the past no longer exists, and the future never was. Right now, this is it. They ask me why I do what I do, and this is what I tell them. I get on stages and I talk about my pain so that nobody else has to feel them. Because the pain from my past does not dictate the present, and the fear of the future only worries me if I let it. All I have is now, a moment to share with you, to tell you about my past and all the things I went through. Abused and neglected, a lot that's hurt me. But I rise above it, and you can too. Just keep working. Take your losses and turn them into lessons. Give grace and give back. That's the way to many blessings. Speak with conviction and love with no conditions. Stand tall, stand proud, and unlearn unhealthy traditions. Follow your passion and believe in your vision. Fall in love with the process and stay firm in your intentions. And trust that the results will be a byproduct of the work. And don't bottle up emotions, because as we know, bottles can burst. Create the life you choose to live. Surround yourself with those you love. Give thanks for every breath. And linger with every hug. For all we have is now. This moment. This day. Spread light and love everywhere you go. And tell people that's to refuse to sink away. Thank you.
My question to you is, how do I give them hope, especially when they're no longer even in a school system with an elementary school education?
How do you give a kid hope? It's hard because there's so many factors influencing a kid's life that may be bigger than your influence on their lives. But I think what we can do, right? Similar to addressing our mental health, we have to control what we can control, because if we start to look at those things that are out of our control, it overwhelms us. That is the anxiety that creates so much overwhelm. And so what can you control is how you show up day in and day out for that person, right? We want to be superheroes for young people, and that's great. Right? There's a story about a little boy. He's on the beach, and this old man sees him throwing something into the ocean. He's throwing it, and the man gets closer and closer. He notices that he's throwing starfish into the water, and he goes to the kid and he's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Well, there was a storm last night, and I want to save these starfish, so I'm picking them up and I'm throwing them into the water." And he looks around, there are hundreds and thousands of starfish. And he's like, "You can't possibly save all these starfish." And the little kid, he's eager, he's determined. He looks down, he picks up another starfish, and he throws it into the water, and he says, "But I just saved that one." There are going to be a lot of students that you encounter, and you're going to want to save them all, and you're going to want to do everything and be that superhero for them. But you have to control what you can control and show up and show the love that you have for them, and hope that we have organizations like CPE, like we have Refuse to Sink. We have more people doing their part, because it takes a village. It's not just on you. It's not just on you. It takes a village to raise a kid, to provide that hope. I got a message. I wish I could have my phone so I could read it verbatim, but I got a message from a kid yesterday and said, Mr. Reggie, thank you so much for coming to our school yesterday. I live about 15 minutes outside of Glades Day, and I grew up in a neighborhood similar to yours, and I've lost friends to violence, and they're not here anymore. But what you said, it lifted me up. It lifted me up and told me that there is a brighter future, that I don't have to be a victim of my environment, right? And maybe it's just telling someone that they don't have to be a victim of their environment. And those are seeds. Those are seeds that are planted in the concrete, because these rows, they'll grow. They'll grow. You just have to do your part. I just turned the whole answer to a speech, y'all. What the? Anymore.
If there was any one modality that you used to help you heal those childhood traumas, what was it?
Great question. I've done a lot of therapy. Yes. Yes. She got some knowledge. Y'all tap in with her. Oh, good. Yes. I haven't, but so started with grief counseling and CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, is talk therapy, right? Started with that because that was, what was accessible. But when I think about all the different things that I've done EMDR, eye movement desensitization, and reprocessing. Y'all look at that, and it's a fantastic modality. I've done play therapy, art therapy. I've done neurofeedback, which is like, when you start to look at it, it looks really woo-woo, but it's science, and it's positive reinforcement. But when I think about the greatest modality for me in terms of what I felt, like I felt the healing happening, I was at a program, I was at a retreat, a trauma retreat called Onsite, and it was a living centered program. And at Onsite, the big modality was psychodrama. Psychodrama was experiential therapy, and psychodrama was really role playing. It was getting back into those moments, right? I'm now playing the role of my inner child. I'm 5 years old. This person is knocking on the door. I don't want to answer it. Now I role play. I flip positions. I'm in the position of that person. It gives you perspective to understand that person's sick. That person is hurting inside as well. Then I get back into my position, and I can change the narrative. Like you said, right? It didn't happen the way that it did, but it should have happened this way. And that adult should have stepped in and did that, right? Psychodrama has been so huge for me. Throughout that entire week while I was there, my entire body was shaking, releasing the trauma that was stuck in my spine, my chest, my hips. Right, my entire body was shaking. When I got home after being there, I slept for 2 days straight because there was so much release. I would say if you are a clinician, if you can get trained in that, it would be huge, because talking is great, but when so much of your trauma is trapped in your body and so much of it needs to be out, like you have to. I was screaming, I was yelling, I was throwing things, I was punching things, and all of that was applauded because it was me releasing so much of that trauma. And then reversing roles and being my mom and understanding that as a 14-year-old kid, like, she loved me the way that she knew how to be loved. I have to have grace for that. It's one of the greatest forms of therapy I've ever experienced. Great question. If y'all want to meet me, I'll be up here. If y'all want books, they are there. And or also Amazon or your local bookstores, you can have them order it if it's not on the shelves. It's been such an honor to be here. I'll be here. I'll hang out for a little while just to talk to you all if you have anything to share. But thank y'all so much. I appreciate y'all. Got one more thing. And if you want to follow anything that I'm doing, ReggieDFord.com will lead you to everything. All of my social medias are Reggie D. Ford. But again, stories connect us, stories help us heal. So Reggie D. Ford, all platforms. Okay.
So,
yes. Get home
yeah, I got to get
safely.
home for the cat.
Yes. Get home
Thank you.
safely.
Great
Thank
job.
you so much for coming.
I'm happy to come up to see
Yes.
you.
Yes.
Yeah,
Definitely.
So have a good rest of your
Yes.
trip.
Thank you.
Enough?
We'll talk.
Yeah. We will.
All right. Take
Bye,
care.
Cher.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
I give this book to many people
Mhm.
that are going through things
Mhm.
that need inner healing.
Okay. Definitely. I'll check it out.
I
Thank you
just
so
wanted to
much.
share it with
Yes,
you.
thank you so
You're
much. I
welcome.
appreciate you. Yes.
Mr. Ford, could I ask you to please sign my book
Yes,
for me?
yes,
My
yes.
newly purchased.
I
And
appreciate you. Thank you so
oh, no
much.
problem. I just, I've always joked. I moved up here where I'm the minority now, and now I'm working with kids that I don't look like.
Hmm.
I said, what is an old, fat, middle-aged white lady supposed to tell these kids?
Yeah.
But you know what? They feel the heart.
They do. They
But
do. And they will remember you.
well, that's what I got out of your talk today.
Hmm.
And I got a quick story to tell you that really humbled me. I was teaching in middle school.
Mm.
And of course, in our small community, you hear names. Everybody knows who the trouble kids are.
Hmm.
Then I left the middle school and started my professional career.
Can I give you a hug?
Yes, thank you so
Aw.
much.
Presentation.
Thank
Keep
you
it
so
up.
much. Yes.
We need it everywhere you can go.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thank you.
I would give you a hug, but I'm stinky. I think I
No,
might
no,
have to
no.
go.
I please, I need
Sorry,
one.
thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you so much for all you
God
do.
bless you.
Thank you so
You'll
much.
hear from me. I'm probably going to see if you have videos on your website. I want my
Absolutely.
kids to see them.
Yes, please, please, please. I would love to. I would love to help inspire them.
Yeah,
Definitely.
because they have some tough lives. But you're my first 10 out of 10. I've had 8 out of 10. I've had 8 out of 10. But
Yeah.
one of those things you really don't want to.
Yeah. You don't. But thank
All
you
right,
so
I'll let
much.
everybody else.
I appreciate you. Yes, thank you so much. Be
Absolutely.
safe getting home, okay?
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
You too. God
Thank
bless
you.
you.
You too.
And you too. I'm going to come hug you.
Yes.
Can I get out of here?
It's
Oh
okay.
no, you're so
Well,
fine.
I've got to get back to work.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. Hi. I'm good. And do you have a pen so I can sign it? Yeah, we'll grab one.
And that's great that you're coming out. You know, I was raised here and my daughter was raised here. Well, oh yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Good
All
to
right.
see you.
Thank you.
I'm Tracy. It is
Hi,
so
Tracy.
nice to meet
Nice
you.
to
I
meet
tell
you.
you what, your story, and just it was fantastic. You guys have been a blessing to our community, and I'm so grateful for you to come and share. I went to Glades Day School,
Okay.
and I'm with Abby on
Mhm.
Refuse to Think, and
Yes.
my daughter graduated with JD.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, so we go way back together.
Mhm.
We work together, but anyway, and it makes me feel so good for us to give back
Mhm.
with your testimony, and just everybody has something, and just hearing your story, I can't thank you guys enough, and I can't wait to get your book.
Thank
I
you.
want you to sign it
Yes,
for
I got
me
you.
one day
Yeah.
when you're up. I say on Oprah's couch, but now she's half retired.
I know.
So you got to give a shout out to Tracy.
I will. I'll give a
I'm
shout out
kidding,
to
I'm
Tracy.
kidding.
Yeah,
No, but
no, I
listen,
appreciate
and
it.
are y'all staying at Roland Martin's tonight?
Not tonight. No, we're headed back
You're
toward the
headed back.
airport.
Okay,
Yeah.
I literally live like 3 doors down from there.
Oh,
I
really?
come to visit you guys.
Oh,
Yeah.
man,
I
yeah.
knew that, but I was not a big fan yet.
Yes.
So anyway, so we're glad to have you. And we
Yes.
want y'all back in
Yes.
this area because you've
Absolutely.
been phenomenal.
Thank you so much.
And God bless you both.
Thank you.
I'm telling you, like, everyone needs to hear your story. Everyone needs to hear your story.
Again, appreciative of all those experiences because it helps me come up here and do what I do.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you. Yeah.
I just like your transparency. I love it.
Yeah.
And that's one thing with us. We're not transparent.
No.
We try to hide everything.
Yeah. And that hurts us.
Oh.
It hurts us.
Can you tell me again?
Mm-hmm. Ain't that right? It is. It's like, nah, I gotta release some of that. But there's a lot of shame behind that, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of shame. And that was something like, we don't tell those stories outside the house, right? But it's like, if I don't get used to telling stories, how am I ever gonna heal from it? How am I ever gonna heal?
That was my grandma's favorite thing. What happens in here stays in here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, I appreciate you and the work that you're doing because it really makes a difference. It definitely does. So thank you.
You have
Yeah.
a great
You
trip back.
too.
A safe
Yes.
trip.
He's safe. Thank you.
Oh,
Oh, what's up?
you know what?
You ever,
Yes, I'm
you ever heard
in
of that?
Yes.
And my daughter, she's stubborn.
Yes.
Thank you.
I appreciate
I want
that.
to say 30 on the 30. You're awesome. I'm getting ready to retire, and I wish I was you now.
Oh,
All
hey.
this energy.
Hey, we can get you some energy. Come on, let's go. We'll get it.
She has a lot
I
of
know.
energy.
She got some energy. Yeah,
We work
you
at the
got
same
the
school.
energy.
She got the energy. Yeah.
I would. I'm
Yeah.
glad you reminded me about it today.
Yeah.
I had gotten the email and I forgot. But I wanted to ask you.
Yes,
It
ma'am.
was psychodrama.
Psychodrama. So look up experiential therapy. It's underneath experiential therapy. That's just doing stuff, but psychodrama. Yes.
It sounds a
Well,
lot
let him know when you
similar
tell
to
him.
Dr. Jean Houston type work.
Maybe. Okay, I'm gonna look that up. Gene
And
Houston.
she actually worked with the Clintons at one point.
Okay.
She
Definitely.
has a nice program, and I did something similar to what you're talking
Mhm.
about, where
Mhm.
you go back into that childhood,
Yes.
you write the script down,
Yeah.
and the story that you remember,
Mhm.
and like you said, then you step out, and
Yeah.
now you're the adult, you're
Yep.
looking back, how can I have different eyes,
Mm.
rewrite it, and then can you negate that
Gene
positive.
Houston.
Yeah, Dr. Jean
Feel
Houston.
like I've heard of this before. I'm gonna look it up though. Yeah. Thank you.
Experiential, right?
Yes. Experience. Yes, that's right. Psychodrama. Yep.
And you mentioned
Well,
a
and what was
couple
your
others.
name?
Milagro.
Milandro. That's right. Yeah. EMDR. You know, have you heard of EMDR? That is growing in popularity right now.
I'm familiar with rapid,
Rapid eye movement.
yeah, there's that
Uh,
one.
brain spotting. Brain spotting is another
Brain
one.
spotting.
Yes. IAT.
I haven't heard about that
Or
one.
is it I? Is it? I think it's called IAT. IDB or IDT. One of those. Yeah, it's 3 letters. But those are a lot of both of all three of
EMDR,
these.
brain spotting.
What else? Cold therapy. Like even cold therapy, right? That really triggers the nervous system in a way that reprograms. So I love cold therapy. Cold, like cold. So yeah.
COLD.
So it's like it it's more for the body, right? So cold plunges or even holding ice or like that. So it's very simple in what it looks like, but the nervous system responses that it helps to calm or activate are amazing.
I was actually, my room, this is my house. Like, I
Yeah.
keep myself here. And I would find something cold and cold. This, and I would, I would tell myself, this is where I am. It's like,
It brings that presence. It brings that presence.
brings the
Yes.
present. And you're like,
Yeah.
I'm learning the neurolinguistic programming, NLP.
Okay.
So when you start talking about neural-based,
Yeah, definitely. Also, I didn't talk much about it, but yoga. I've been practicing yoga for over 10 years,
15.
and Dr. Bessel van der Kolk says that's one of the greatest forms of therapy in treating trauma. So, yeah.
Each of the different exercises releases different things.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
hip,
Yeah.
anger.
Definitely. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
I would like to reach out at some point. And maybe
Reggie
come
D
down,
Ford. Yeah, please.
career day.
Please.
part
Oh
two.
man, please. Yes, just reach out and we'll make something happen. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes.
I'll get a picture with you real fast.
Oh yes.
It's a,
Oh yeah, we gotta get a picture.
oh,
Thank
great,
you.
great.
There you go.